Welcome to True Health Tuesdays, and the truth will set you free. Today we're going to talk about concussions part 2. Make sure you check out part 1. Now, concussions part 2, healing the brain. This was inspired by Kelly McKee. Hi, Dr. Bergman. Could you please do a video on healing the brain from traumatic brain injury, from falls, accidents, etc.? Thank you. Absolutely. So first, we've got to address the 3 stressors: physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. Now, without stress, we die. With too much stress, we die. So we have to address all 3 of those, and we're going to do that in this video. Please subscribe to our channel, and that's going to help it make us grow, and share this vital, life-saving information that can change the world and save lives. Thank you for sharing this information. Now, first step, in our climate, I can't even say this word, but avoid wacky scenes, because those can trigger a Th2 or an inflammatory response, and they can stimulate your immune system in ways that it can delay healing. Medications, look at why you're taking them, and any unnecessary medications. Find out the source of why you're taking it, and eliminate the source of it so you can get off of them. Environmental toxins, non-organic or GMO foods that your grandparents wouldn't recognize. Nutritional deficiencies, and chronic stress. The real questions and the quality of your life depends on the quality of questions you ask. What am I toxic with? What am I deficient in? And why do I have these symptoms? That's the key. Now, first, week 1 of post-concussion. First, start by correcting the cranial and spinal misalignments. This is huge, because after a trauma, the cranial bones can literally move up to 2 millimeters. And you can identify this by checking the sagittal suture where the 2 parietal bones come together. If you have heat or tenderness coming out of the suture, that means that there's increased intracranial pressure. And that could mean that the cranial bones are misaligned, but it could mean that the spinal structures not allowing the cerebral spinal fluid that's produced in the brain to drain. So you got to look at the structural component. Eliminate all processed sugars. That is poison to the system. Eat more organic greens and drink, based on your body size, 2 to 3 liters of water daily. You can add a little bit of minerals in there, like a little bit of healthy sea salt. But look at your urine, has a gauge with how much water you're drinking. Should be light yellow, not clear. Now, week 2. Continue correcting this cranial and spinal misalignments. Again, that's going to alter the input into the brain and help that brain cerebral spinal fluid help to drain down. Add turmeric and omega-3s for the anti-inflammatory effects. Figure inflammation is a repair process of the body. Inflammation can create free radicals. That's why you need to add the antioxidants to deactivate those free radicals, to make inflammation regenerate the tissue. And then light activity. If you're using a rebounder, understand balance can be an issue, so make sure you're holding on to something stable. Walking symmetrically, making sure your arms are moving symmetrically for at least 5-minute sessions if you can. Diaphragmatic breathing is going to help. Also, look at other antioxidants like dark chocolate, organic red grapes, avocados, organic apples. Fantastic. Let food be your medicine. Now, week 3. Continue the adjusting schedule. So you're changing that input into the brain and allowing, because anytime you're doing an adjustment, you're literally altering that input into the brain. Then start adding 3 tablespoons of coconut oil daily to the diet. This will help get you the healthy saturated fats so you can build hormones and build your natural anti-inflammatories such as cortisol. And then again, start doing the rebounder for increased lymph flow, and it also changes sensory input to the brain. Week 4, continue the adjusting schedule. Drink plenty of water. Okay, your body is 70% water, and if you're drinking about half your body weight in ounces, then that's fantastic. A 200-pound man should be drinking at least 100 ounces of water. And that it based on the environment, because if it's very hot or very cold, you may be using more. Now, B complex, vitamin B complex, at least 25 milligrams, hugely important. And zeal, you've got to get your vitamins and try and get them from whole food sources. And zinc, 10 to 20 milligrams for children, 40 milligrams for adults. And look at zinc-containing foods, oysters, healthy animal products like red meat and poultry, but also look at beans, look at seeds, nuts, plants. Just know that the animal sources are easier absorbed. But if you're a vegetarian, great. Get nuts, seeds, okay, dairy products. And I'm talking healthy dairy, not hormone-laden dairy. Now, week 5, continue adjusting. And again, that's going to change that input into the brain and monitor progress. Evaluate ocular motor nerve testing. The eyes are fantastic for identifying structures in the spine. The brain doesn't stop at the skull. There's an oblong section that extends the top third of the neck. And checking the ocular motor functions. Okay, side to side, up and down, looking for nystagmus. Okay, that's going to be a huge identifier on how the brain is healing. And then multiple concussions lead to longer recovery from future ones. So know that a concussion is a big deal. You don't want to get them. So proper nerve supply. We're going to run through all 5 keys of health so you know the best way to approach tissue regeneration. Now, nerve supply, when you look at this, you've got the position and motion of the vertebrae stimulates that cerebellum, and that cerebellum controls the frontal lobe. What's important in the frontal lobe? This is impulse control. So that's attention deficit disorder, ADD, ADHD. It's also anxiety, stress, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. So if you have alterations in structure, you're talking alterations in stimulus to that cerebellum. Now, the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, okay, these things work in conjunction. But let's look at the autonomic nervous system. Now, it has 2 parts. Parasympathetic, which is also called rest, digest, and repair, and that's also called craniosacral. It's located in the base of the brain, and it's also located in the pelvis. And sympathetic, or the fight or flight, that's located in the thoracic area. So if you've had structural abnormalities or structural deviations there, this is going to alter your body's ability to regenerate. And when you look at the autonomic nervous system, boil it down. Your body has 2 switches, stress response or regenerative. So stress or regeneration, those are the 2 choices. And we need a balance in those. Now, Dr. Chung Ha Su, University of Colorado, brilliant. If subluxations are not corrected early, when they're caused shortly after birth, the subluxation will be difficult or impossible to correct later. Subluxations can reduce nerve impulses by 60%. And a subluxation is a bone misaligned in relationship to its juxtaposition with the vertebrae above and below. And this is what chiropractors correct. Now, so that means you have an alteration in position and motion, you have an alteration in stimulation. Hugely important to look at the entire structure. And when caused shortly after birth, patients will ask me, Doc, when should I get my kids checked? And I said, well, you could wait till they're sick as heck and then drag the body in, or we could check them to make sure that they're healthy. Brilliant article here. Sensory motor disturbances in the neck affecting postural stability, head and eye movement control. Afferent information. Okay, so this is sensory input into the brain from the cervical receptors can be altered via a number of mechanisms, such as trauma, functional impairment of the receptors, changes in muscle spindle sensitivity, and the vast effects of pain at many levels of the nervous system. That means you alter the structure, you're altering the input into the brain. Now, here's some examples of cervical spines. In the middle, it's normal. We should have a nice curve. The top of the neck should be over the bottom. When you're looking at reverse curves, that means you have injured the posterior longitudinal ligament, the ligament that runs down the back half of the vertebral bodies. And this is altering that flow of cerebral spinal fluid. It's altering cerebellar input from the spine and central nervous system, and this is altering frontal lobe dysfunction. Now, depression and bipolar on either side of that x-ray, you can see that they've had a physical trauma altering the structures in their neck, which is altering the input into the brain. Now, when you look at the pattern of this, we've got inflammation, but inflammation is not a dragon attacking you. It's literally damage to the cells. So like if I scratch myself, I'm damaging the cells, then inflammation occurs to regenerate the tissue. Now, when you're looking at the muscles that run from the skull all the way down to the pelvis, they're called postural muscles. They're not under conscious control. And so if they're increased in tone, that tightness and stiffness in the neck, the back, everywhere else indicates that there's a problem. So you have the tissue damage creating inflammation to start the healing, the stiffness and tightness, and that's going to be the back pain, neck pain thing. This alters the sensory input into the brain, okay, and this decreases the brain's ability to adapt because now the brain's got to adapt to this abhorrent or abnormal stimulus to the brain. And it can literally start to add, I mean, if you got a structural deviation, you have abnormal stimulation, this could literally change the structure of the brain. Now, what the chiropractic adjustments do, okay, and this is huge, when you're looking at, when you have an alteration in structure, you have to have somebody to identify that on an x-ray. And we use static and stress x-rays to see how the body is functioning. And this will change the input into the cerebellum. Now, the cerebellum is only about 10% of the surface area of the brain. But when you spread it out, you're looking at more than half of the neurons are located in that cerebellum. And this is massively responsible for input into that brain. This is why the chiropractic adjustments change that input into the brain or proprioception and the synapses in that cerebellum. Now, from the Journal of Neuroplasticity, this is huge. The function of your spine affects the function of your brain. Let me say that again. The structure, function, position, and motion of those vertebrae will affect the function of your brain. Now, chiropractic adjustments are going to change that brain input or that proprioceptive input. Prefrontal cortex, a conductor, higher learning, and cognitive. This is why you see memory, slow speech, everything following trauma. Now, this explains improvements in brain function, memory, concentration, motor function, balance, decision-making, attention, intelligence. Now, so you change brain function, you're changing physiology. And the reverse, you change the physiology or input, you're changing the brain function. Now, the Journal of Neuroplasticity. The study showed a change in brain function by almost 20% on average from the adjustment. And there's been a growing body of evidence to suggest that neuroplastic changes occur following chiropractic spinal manipulation. Why? That brain is like a battery. It gets its charge from the position and motion of the vertebrae. You change the position and motion, you're changing the stimulation to the brain. Out of Physiologic Reviews at the American Journal of Physiology, 2014. Brain plasticity refers to the remarkable property of cerebral neurons to change their structure and function in response to experience. How changes at the level of the neuronal properties can ultimately affect and direct key perceptual and behavioral outputs. That means you change the information going in by changing the position of motion, you're changing the structure. Now, let's go on the healing part, regular exercise. Journal of Sports Medicine. Regular physical exercise increase angiogenesis, okay, that's blood vessel formation, neurogenesis. This is neurons literally start to form synapto. Those neurons can now join or form new synapses and the synthesis of neurotransmitters. And this is how the brain communicates. In different cerebral structures involved in cognition due to an increase in the liberation of neurotrophic factors and the production of enzymatic antioxidants. That exercise, if you could bottle it, it'd be the greatest drug ever. And the exercise that we give 100% of our patients, whether they've showed evidence of a brain trauma or not, if there's evidence of a spinal trauma, we give them symmetrical or cross-crawl exercises to start that regeneration of the brain. Now, exercise and brain plasticity. Exercise training increases the size of the hippocampus and improves memory. Aerobic exercise training effectively reversing hippocampal volume loss during late adulthood. Increased blood flow to your brain, increases oxygen supply to the brain, encourages more vigorous release of accumulated toxins through better blood circulation. Remember, you've got 4 detox pathways: respiration, perspiration, bowel movements, and urination. Exercise it increases all of those. It also increases blood flow. The increased blood flow increases nutrients necessary to keep the brain cells functioning. Moderate exercise can reverse normal brain shrinkage by 2%, effectively reversing age-related hippocampal degeneration by 1 to 2 years. Exercise is a nutrient to the brain. In Physiologic Review, quote, we demonstrate that loss of hippocampal volume in late adulthood is not inevitable and can be reversed with moderate intensity exercise. There is a striking ability of environmental enrichment and physical exercise to empower adult brain plasticity. This means movement is the key. It's a nutrient to the brain. Movement is a nutrient to the brain. And that also means if you have an altered position of motion of those vertebrae, you're getting altered input into the brain. Now, proper nutrition. Number one thing, avoid poisoning yourselves. Avoid processed foods, genetically modified organisms. Avoid the toxic grains. Avoid artificial and processed sugars. Pasteurized and homogenized dairy is crazy because you're creating shards of fat, and generally it's from cows that are laden with hormones. Unhealthy meats. This means antibiotic-laden meats and unhealthy fats such as corn oil, canola oil, soy, the seed oils. They're toxic to the system. Look at proper nutrition. Vitamin D helps produce serotonin in the brain. Activated vitamin D receptors increase nerve growth in your brain. The combination of vitamin D, tryptophan, and omega-3 fats can naturally elevate concentrations of brain serotonin without side effects. People with low vitamin D levels are 11 times more prone to depression. Omega-3s, amazing, particularly animal-based ones, sardine, mackerel, and anchovies. Look at the source of the omega-3s. That's going to be huge. It's the single most important nutrient for optimal brain function. Low levels of DHA have been linked to depression, memory loss, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease. So you've got to get the right nutrients. And then look at the microflora. 80% of your immune system resides in your gut. Bacteria outnumber your cells 10 to 1. You have about 100 trillion bacteria, about 2 to 3 pounds worth of bacteria in your gut. You should have about 85% good, 15% bad. Beneficial bacteria keeps bad bacteria, yeast, mold, funguses all in check. They produce nutrients such as your body needs, such as B vitamins. It's called the gut brain. And functions of your gut flora. It helps digest and absorb carbohydrates, essential for energy. It produces vitamins, absorbs minerals, eliminates toxins. A good gut flora can distinguish between pathogens and non-harmful antigens. It keeps your harmful bacteria under control. It aids in production of antibodies to pathogens. It provides support to your immune system. This is why they say 90% of your immune system is located in your gut. So let's feed that gut with healthy nutrients, such as organic, plant-based diet. Look at locally grown seasonal foods, organic. Healthy fats, such as coconut oil, olive oil, fermented vegetables. I just did a class on fermentation in Bangkok. Look at probiotic supplements, juiced vegetables, blended fruits, raw dairy, amazingly good for you. And reduce omega-6s and increased animal-based omega-3s, anchovy, mackerel, and sardine oil. I mean, omega-3s, when you're looking at it, don't just get the standard omega-3. Look at the source of it. Okay, sardines, mackerel, anchovies, amazing. Small fish, so they have less heavy metal toxicity. Omega-3s are the single most important nutrient for optimal brain function. Low DHA levels have been linked to depression, memory loss, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's. Now let's look at rest. This is when your body regenerates. Why is sleep so important? It increases the rate of wound healing. Why? Sleep is the parasympathetic rest, digest, and repair. It activates your immune system. Good sleep maintains emotional balance. Increased sleep increases efficiency of antioxidant mechanisms. It increased waste clearance from the brain. It restores your supply of ATP, which is your energy for the mitochondria. Its secretion of growth hormones increases clarity and retention of memory, supports higher level of cognitive functions, prevents many degenerative diseases. Lack of sleep has a cumulative effect on your body. It weakens your immune system, aggravates chronic pain, impairs your physical and mental performance, alters your hormone levels and metabolism, can lead to brain shrinkage, prematurely ages you. Okay, the drugs that affect sleep. And again, this is crazy that we're in a society that gets symptoms, okay, such as high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, bowel disorders, anything, and you're getting a chemical for this. Those chemicals are not what your body's suffering from. Your body is presenting these symptoms for a reason. All blood pressure drugs can affect sleep negatively. Beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, diuretics, appetite suppressant drugs, antacids, of course, the high blood pressure medications, ADD, ADHD drugs, over-the-counter cold medications, corticosteroids, analgesics, sedative medications. Medications used to induce sleep can alter sleep function. Antihistamines are dangerous, such as Benadryl, over-the-counter sleep medications, asthma drugs, bronchodilators. Now, the way to achieve deep sleep, remember, light is your body's primary cure for sleep. Limit your exposure to artificial blue light, expose your body to as much natural sunlight as you can, and take the proper steps to achieve REM state of sleep. Now, sleep mastery, I've got multiple videos on how to achieve sleep. Number one thing, we've got to quiet the overactive mind. So no electronics before bed, no computers, TVs, cell phones. Those emit a blue light, which interrupts melatonin, but it also causes your brain to go into a beta wave state where you can't achieve the deep states of sleep. So journal before bed. This means you write down 3 things: what you did that day, what you're going to do the next day, and any emotionally charged event. Now, this works on my patients who have like motor neuron disorders where you can't read what they're writing, but the fact they're thinking a thought, putting a mark on a paper calms that subconscious. Then you have to read a paper book 15 minutes before bed, not an electronic device, because that rhythmic motion of reading. Now, make sure it's, something boring. Like if I pick up a Zane Grey novel, I'm not going to put it down. So something to calm that brain down. Make sure it's super dark when you go to sleep. So wear eye coverings, nightshades, or it has to be so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face, because you're going to go through these 90-minute cycles where your eyes are literally going to open, then they close. And if there's enough light to see your hand in front of your face, bam, your muscles are going to fire off. That'll initiate pain response. You're going to have to go evacuate your bladder. You're going to have to get up to pee. Eye coverings are hugely important. Then you have to reset your circadian rhythm. And we recommend sleep restriction therapy, where you go to bed at 10 to 10:30, get out of bed at 4 to 4:30. Now, this is a challenge because lack of sleep has a similar effect as alcohol. So know you're during the first 4 to 5, maybe 6 days at the outside, lack of sleep has a similar effect as alcohol. So realize your reaction time is going to be impaired. But we have to hit a reset button on that brain so your body can start to achieve those deep states of sleep. Within about 5 days, if you're doing everything, the journaling, the reading, the nightshades, doing the prep work before, within 5 days, you're going to be sleeping through the night. Maintain this pattern for 21 days. After 21 days, for the rest of your life, you look at sleep as restoring. You're going to do the journaling, the reading, the nightshades. Every minute, nightshades, I mean the eye coverings, for the rest of your life, but you're going to sleep in an extra hour. You're going to be lazy. Now, prayer and meditation, vitally important. Now, emotional stress can be in a number of many forms. Okay, you're looking at loss of a loved one, neglect, mental abuse, sexual abuse, childbirth, menopause, financial difficulties, job problems, a diagnosis from a medical doctor, bullying, social isolation, relationship troubles, injury, Now, our brains that get addicted to the chemicals we're exposed to. So consistent firing will give you a consistent chemical excretion. And chemicals are emotions. Emotions are chemicals secreted by how the brain perceives the environment. So if you're constantly inputting stress responses from, looking at the news or what's going on in the world, okay, your brain is going to start to hardwire those. And I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. His latest book, I'm Becoming Supernatural. God, I recommend that. It's brilliant. I've been meditating for about 40 years, and I learned some new stuff on meditation. Dr. Joe is amazing. But a memory without an emotional charge is called wisdom. A memory with an emotional charge can run your life. And so we have to reprogram that by being consciously aware of our emotional state. Because if you've been in a chronic state of stress, your brain will be firing along those. So you have to change that, or brain reprogramming. And I've got a number of different videos on how to reprogram that brain. And stress is based on your perception. Okay, death in the family, end of the world, news, economic, pain, loss, bills. It's not the event. It's your response to the event. So you cannot control that event. You can't control what's going on in the world, but you can control your response to it. And that will radically control the outcome. So if you are getting overwhelmed by events, realize that your response to that is going to radically change the outcome. Meditation. Researchers at Harvard, Yale, MIT. Meditation can alter the physical structures of the brain. Any repetitive activity that requires higher cognitive function, the structure of the brain can literally change to repeated related practices. I love this. Our data suggests that meditation practice can promote cortical plasticity in adult areas important for cognitive as well as emotional processing and well-being. I mean, it's crazy not to initiate. You're talking. Every study involving prayer shows that the healing occurs more rapidly. Let's do it. It just makes sense. Plus, your relationship with a higher source like God really is fun. Okay, so thinking well questions. 3 key questions. What intellectual, emotional, and spiritual states are toxic and force adaptive cell function and sickness? So if you're in a chronic emotional state of stress, you've got 2 switches in your body. They're called the autonomic nervous system or automatic. Stress or regeneration. If you're in a physically or emotionally stressed state, it is going to be really hard to regenerate that tissue. And know that your emotional state can be reprogrammed by you. Question 2, what are the intellectual, emotional, spiritual requirements for homeostasis and cell health? Brilliant question. What intellectual, emotional, and spiritual choices are necessary to create sufficiency and purity? Brilliant. Think well. Act well, think well, be well. And so when we talk about the 5 keys to health, this is why. They are absolutely essential. Get that, buddy? Even my dog agrees. So please post your questions and comments below. We're going to get to as many of them as we can. Please share this vital information and subscribe to our channel. Now, we got to divide the answers into 2 different sections. One that we can answer on standard social media, and one that we have to answer on our private site, the drbvip.com, Dr. BVIP. Stay healthy, my friends. God bless you. And the world was designed for you, and you were designed for the world.